Have you been in a relationship that failed and you can't focus on anything else? It preoccupies your mind. It's incredible. It's like an addiction. It just takes over your whole thought process until you can finally relegate it to the, we call it the file 13 place, the garbage can. Go ahead.
Matrix. What's not to say?
Am I doing pretty good?
Behavior? Like, what really is human behavior? Like, is it really what we control, or is it really like somebody programming us?
What is it? This whole thing is just a thought experiment to get you to think about it, people. And the reason I think it's important is because there are people out there, you don't get to be, how do I say this? The thought is, the assumption is, you don't get to be a billionaire without having some sense of level of smarts. And maybe you just know how to cheat people like Bernie made off with all your money, $84 billion. I don't know how that works, but there's some assumption that they might be onto something, and it may be relevant to the rest of us. Right now, it doesn't matter, does it? You're sitting in my class and you're letting me go down this rabbit hole. Some of you are with me and some of you are wondering when I'm going to stop, and I mean, I get all of that. But what if there is a reality out there that eventually will become important to know about? What would happen if these, let's just say these two tech billionaires and Bank of America's right, and one day they not only announce that they've now come to the conclusion, but they show us beyond a shadow of a doubt that we're in a matrix. That puts us in a position of knowledge that has to be acted on. You either accept that reality, you wake up every morning, you're in the matrix, or the pink pill or the blue pill, and you get out. Whatever on the other side you get to deal with. You have a choice. Right now, this is just a thought experiment. I've been playing with this for semesters now. It's just a thought experiment. But people now out there in the quote-unquote real world have taken it seriously. It's all a result of AI, of artificial intelligence. Maybe this is a relevant piece of information to know for sure, the truth about what goes on. Or I could thank you for letting me wake you up and going down this rabbit hole with me. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even if like Bank of America, the other billionaires figured out we were in a matrix, I'm pretty sure most governments would stop them from saying anything, so like mass panic didn't happen.
Would you all get, that's a good thought too. Would you all get panicked if someone suddenly told you you're not living your own life, you're in a test tube or something, and it might produce some panic. Maybe that panic would be positive though. Panic doesn't have to be negative. We tend to view it as a negative, but maybe it would be a positive thing. It's called revolution. Don't tell them in Mordor, I use that word in here.
Yeah, I feel like if like it did get out, like people would kind of like the panic. Some would be positive, but there's also like people who would do things like rob banks and do this just because it's not real. So like, why not type thing? So it might become like a chaos.
Sure, it could be. Absolutely. All kinds of possibilities. The matrix allows us to play, to have all kinds of possibilities. Okay, well, I'm done with that. I just really wanted to, and I appreciate those of you who were willing to share. I do want to introduce you to a few more thoughts before I let you go. Plato, who we'll study on Thursday, says that he believes that we live in a world of assumptions that are based on either false belief or true belief, but not knowledge and knowing. That someone has pulled a veil over our eyes, and the reality to which we perceive is so real that that's the world we believe really is. So for Plato, he believes we live in a world of assumptions that are based on our perceptions, the way we look at the world, the way we've been taught to look at the world. I shared this with you, I think, the very first week we were together. Children see things that we as adults no longer see, and as soon as they begin to see them, we shut those sensories down. So how many of you see shadows? Hear voices. I have a friend went through a terrible operation, was run over by a truck, literally, she was a bottle, no more after that. I mean, her face was crushed, your eyeball was on a cord, and it was, they put her in surgery immediately. She sat up in the corner of the operating room and she watched the entire thing. She told the doctors about it during recovery, and they said, well, that's impossible. And she says, you want to know the dirty jokes you told? I can tell you everything you said. And they've seen that often enough to say, well, that we can't explain that in the real world that we live in, but obviously that's happened enough. People who die, or at least have what we call near-death experiences, come back and they have a general similar report. Not all are the same, but and we're beginning to wonder, so what are the presumptions that makes us not see that or not believe that? Some of us believe that as soon as children start seeing those things, we begin to shut down those sensors. We say they aren't real. Don't believe in that. Children begin with perceptions and experiences. Access to reason doesn't occur until their late teens or early 20s. Some things that look good taste awful. Grandpa can take out his teeth, but they're not really teeth. The moon and mustard are yellow, but the color yellow isn't an equivalency. It's not the same. Parents who explain the distinction between appearance and what we think is reality are introducing their children to philosophy. So from the very beginning, you've been taught to think. Think the way that you're conformed to think, the way the world is to be perceived. In our world, reason, experience. In the Eastern world, we'll get to that in a couple of weeks, interconnectedness and intuitions. I share the story with you, my 3 boys. Who made the moon? Interesting, they thought there's a force or some kind of sense behind it other than what we call some fortuitous concourse of atoms. The next thing you know, you get a moon. You get the universe that way. They begin with surface qualities and then move to essential qualities. I think Ashanti and I were the only ones who disagreed with the group as to whether it's a blue-green or green-blue cup. A lake at the end of a hot Arizona highway. We see that enough. We know that's not a lake. It's just the heat coming off the macadam. Cows eat grass and out comes milk. That's always odd to me. Some scientists are trying to genetically produce cows that can give skim milk. I'm waiting for chocolate milk. Did I ever tell you about Reggie Corliss? I never know what I say in this class. I go to a 7-Eleven and there's a young girl that I've known since she was like 15, 16. Now she's an adult. She's working there behind the counter. I walk in. Larry Poller, I haven't seen you in ages. And this guy's standing there. There's just 3 of us. There's Maria, there's me, and this guy's standing there. And when she calls out my name, Reggie says, "Oh, you're Larry Poller." And I looked at him and he says, he's new to the town, literally new. 6,000 people, so we know everyone. He looks at me and he says, "Everyone tells me that you look like me." And I looked at him and I said, "No, you resemble me a little bit though." Joke, 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 and then we leave. Maybe a month goes by and we go to a concert in this town. And it's in a big auditorium, and we come to intermission time, you know. And my little one, Corey, now I have a fraternal twin, I've told you that. 2 different eggs in the womb. He got the defective egg. But we sort of look alike. And Corey's never seen Uncle Jerry, except in a photograph. We don't, again, he resembles me. I don't look like him at all. But there's at least a family resemblance. So intermission time, go to the bathroom. On the way back, I run into a friend I haven't seen in a while, and you know, we know everybody, so I feel safe with this. I said, "Corey, remember where Mommy's sitting? Go sit by Mommy and tell her I'll be there in a few minutes. I want to talk to so-and-so." So we start talking. Corey goes off to sit with Mommy, and a few minutes later, I look down. There's Corey tugging at my pants. I said, "What's up, buddy?" And he goes, "Uncle Jerry's here." No, Uncle Jerry's in New York, and he never travels. He hates to travel. I said, "Show me Uncle Jerry." And we turned around, and there's Reggie Corliss, this guy I ran into in the 7-Eleven. I thought, isn't that interesting that he put this whole package together from a photograph? He sees the similarity. His perceptions tell him this is Uncle Jerry, even though it's not. He resembles my brother a little bit. A child is convinced a monster lurks under their bed. Assurances that this is a false belief are not reassuring when the child knows that as soon as the door is closed, the monster will come up. Therefore, how we know about things seems to be intimately connected to what we know. And that's why I did this thought experiment this morning. We all think we know. If it turns out that the Bank of America and these tech billionaires are right, what we know is not what we know. There may be no harm, no foul, and it's okay. Until you get taken out to be lunch. And then maybe that won't matter either because you can't do anything about it. So the point of this is we start philosophy with how do we know what we know, what we know, epistemology, the world we live in. What's it like? Does it matter that we know? If it doesn't matter that we know, then ignorance is bliss and we just go about our way. And if you fall off a building, get over it if you get over it. Otherwise, deal with it. Life is what life is. We'll get to this as we get into the Eastern philosophy. Life is like a river flowing. You don't change the river. The river is the river. But if it matters, what do we know? Because we want to be in charge of our world. We want to be the ones making decisions. We want to be the ones setting the course of our lives. Then it does matter what we know. But in knowing what we know, it could well change the course of our lives, what we choose to do, what we choose not to do. It could have a tremendous impact on us. So what's at stake here? Literally life itself, the quality of life itself. As long as we don't have to know, we just keep going, and if it's beneficial, it's fine. No harm, no foul. But if it turns out not being beneficial down the road, would it not have been better to know what's going on so we would have had a choice there? Or maybe it wouldn't. That's the hard part of philosophy, because you're all free to think for yourselves. In this class, you're totally free to think for yourselves. But knowing how to think is the key to understanding, and understanding is the key to knowing what you want to do, how you want to interact with the surroundings around you. Any questions for me at all? I don't want to beat it up too much. For those of you who shared, I appreciate it. For those of you who didn't, I appreciated that you didn't throw up, or I always wonder about that. Any questions for me, people? Okay, now, Thursday we get together, Socrates and Plato. This information, I will get very granular with you, so we'll do knowledge and facts. You've been doing really good on your quiz. The reason I didn't bring your quiz up is because you did fine. Most people did just fine. So we'll focus on what you need for your quiz on Thursday. If you came in late, let me know you're here.